better on this whole life thing than before. So keep joining. As you join, please go ahead and share so other people can connect. Please share as you come in. You're all welcome. Welcome. So today we'll be talking about a very, very important topic, which is one of the most used or recognized Scrum events, but it's the least talked about. So we will be addressing that today and really talking about where it fits into this whole agile practice. Thank you. Keep joining. Keep joining. Once I get about at least 10 people, I will go ahead and start. Thank you for joining. Keep joining, and as you join, please go ahead and share. So I'm not going to be here for long today. So I plan to spend at most 30 minutes with you all. So thank you for joining. All right. Hi, Sam. Hi, Gideon. You're all welcome. I think I'm doing way better today than last time. So this is the real agile we are talking about, continuous learning and continuous improvements. That's what agile is really all about. And it's no different from us in real life, you know. All right. Thank you all for joining. I see 6 people online. All right. Well, for the sake of time, because I would need to run on to other commitments, I will just go ahead and start. So today, I am here so we all can really talk about backlog refinement session. Where exactly does it fit into the whole agile and scrum practice? Hi Alimi. And how exactly do we conduct it, and is it even important? That's what I would need us to talk about today. So I see in my experience doing this for a while, I realized that all of the teams I've worked with in the past, majority of them may not practice product backlog refinement. Others, I would say like 80% may not be practicing it at all. Meanwhile, the 20% that I'll see practicing product backlog refinement, they may not even understand the purpose of why they are doing product backlog refinement. And again, come to think of it, if you don't even understand the purpose of why you're doing something, it will hardly ever be possible that you're doing it well or even see any value in it. So that has been my experience. Now, what exactly is backlog refinement in the first place? A lot of people call it backlog refinement. Some other people call it backlog grooming, but I see it, I would like you to see it as pre-sprint planning event. That's really what it is. I'd like you all to see it as pre-sprint planning events. So yeah, some people call it backlog refinement, some people call it grooming. Trust me, it all means the same thing. Even though backlog refinement is the preferred word, because since Agile wants to be more inclusive of the Europeans, and grooming is not a very nice word from a European standpoint. That is why the word grooming has been eliminated to now favor backlog refinement. So what exactly is that? Now, if you want your sprint, I usually say that the sprint planning event has been time boxed to 4 hours for a 2-week sprint and 8 hours for a 1-month sprint. Come to think of it, in reality, it's hardly possible for people to be in a meeting for 8 hours and still be able to be productive or effective. After maximum 2 hours, people's brain may not be able to function effectively as it should. So that is where this product backlog refinement really comes into play. Just so that you don't spend 8 hours if you're practicing a 1 month sprint iteration, you don't have to spend 8 hours just to sit and plan. That is where this product backlog refinement really comes into play. It really helps you shorten the time because you do all of the pre-planning during this product backlog refinement. That is why I call it product backlog refinement. So this backlog refinement, what exactly are you doing during this product backlog refinement session? The expectation is that, or the purpose for this product backlog refinement is for you to start getting your user stories ready. Start making sure that all of the information you need for a user story to be ready to be worked on in the sprint without getting blocked on the way and end up carrying over so many stories. This backlog refinement really helps you to accomplish that. You see, so for teams that I see teams that would do backlog refinement, if you're really doing it well, what you should focus on during this backlog refinement session is that conversation. That's really what's important. That conversation. Remember the 3C. For those who don't know about the 3C, I'm talking about the card, the conversation, and the confirmation. It's not just about you coming and sit there and just to do the event for the purpose of your following the rules. No, you need to understand why you're doing it in the first place. So when you are refining the stories in your backlog to ensure that it meets your definition of ready, that is, if you have one. If you don't have a definition of ready, please just start thinking about it. Yeah, you're refining the stories, making sure that the user stories, all the acceptance criteria are in there, and not just in there, they are clear enough for anyone to be able to understand it. Secondly, you want to make sure that the story description is clear for the developers to be able to understand it and work on it without getting blocked. Another thing that you'll be focusing on during this backlog refinement session is you want to be sure that the user stories that are not available to meet the intended sprint goal, you create all of these user stories, and create them well. You want to make sure that that conversation is happening between the developers and the PO or whoever knows best about that user story. Those are the common activity that will happen during this event. And then who exactly are the ones that should attend these events? The typical attendees of this event would be the same people that will attend your sprint planning event. So I know that from the Scrum Guide standpoint, they say that it is optional, and people that want to attend, they should attend. But I see it as required. That's how I see it, which means that if the entire Scrum team is required to be in a sprint planning, it's the same for backlog refinement session. In reality, it is hard to be able to conduct a backlog refinement session effectively if you don't have all of your team members there. Because it will be that conversation. Again, remember, Scrum, Agile is about reducing waste. If you're conducting this backlog refinement and the entire team is not there, there will be some open questions that some team members were supposed to answer, and now they are not there. It means that after the meeting, you have to start following up with them, and it will be hard for you people, everyone, to be on the same page. So, that being said, the who should be part of this daily the backlog refinement would be the same people that will attend your sprint planning event, which means that if the entire team is required to be in your sprint planning event, then the entire team as well should be required to be in the sprint planning event. So during this sprint planning event, during this backlog refinement, which is, I call it pre-sprint planning, you want to have your product owner, you want to have all of your developers, and then as a Scrum Master, you want to be there as well. But as a matter of fact, the product owner is really the true owner of this event, But from time to time, I love to facilitate the meeting. I just love to facilitate the meeting, especially if the product owner is really not very familiar with the Scrum way of doing things. In the beginning, I would like to facilitate it for a while until I'm able to bring the product owner up to speed with how it is really done to be effective. And then at that time, I will hand it over to the product owner. That is how I would typically do it, you see. So now I have cleared the who part. Those are the typical people that would be part of your backlog refinement session. And now for the activities that would typically happen in your backlog refinement sessions, I've already highlighted some of them. You want to make sure that the stories are ready. And how do you ensure that the stories are ready? You want to make sure that the key things, or the key, or the minimum, the bare minimum, is you want to ensure that so you want to ensure that the stories are prioritized already. I mean, the product backlog has to come with stories already prioritized. So you want to make sure that the acceptance criteria are in there, clear. All of the user stories have the acceptance criteria. You want to make sure that the description is in there, clear. You want to make sure that the stories align with the definition of done. They have that conversation. You want to make sure that the stories are broken down well enough to fit into just one sprint. You want to make sure that the way the story is crafted, it is adding value to the customers. Those are the common things that you will be looking at as you're getting your stories ready. So during this time, so that is the activity. So during this time, that you expect that conversation to be happening among your developers and the product owner. At that time, let's say, for example, if you find them just running through things and that conversation is not really happening, and then you go in your sprints, and then that's when they start coming up with a lot of questions, then you have to question the way you're doing backlog refinement. These are the cue, or these are the things that I'll pay attention to find out if we are really reflecting the purpose of doing backlog refinement. Now, if I see things like that, now during the backlog refinement, I am cueing my team with questions, just making them, so my own checklist that I'm going by to ensure that their stories are really healthy before it goes into the sprint backlog is I am asking them, double checking, is this story free from any dependency, both internal, external dependencies? These are the things I'm asking them. And that will cue them to think, because sometimes developers may not easily identify these things. As a servant leader, that's where you come in to help them really expose the problem. That's your job. You're not a problem solver. Remember, you're a problem exposer. So through these questions, you're cueing them and you help them to think and see the gaps that they are missing so that they don't go commit to stories and then they are not able to realize these stories. So these are the common things that I'll be pointing out. And then I'll be asking things like, okay, if the dependencies are clear, the way this story is crafted, is it going to be valuable to the customer at the end of the sprint? By asking this thing, you make them to check, okay, what value are we bringing out of this work if we realize the story at the end of the sprint? I'm also asking them, the description, is it clear enough for you to understand? Have the story been broken down well enough to fit into just one sprint? If not, okay, you want to further break it down so that the story you're bringing in shouldn't be carried over. It should be something that is achievable in just one sprint. So I am asking all of these things, If the product owner is already very familiar with the agile way of working, you see the product owner taking care of these things. But for the most part, in my experience, the product owner may not really pay attention to these things. That's why you are there as a Scrum Master. You help them see these things. Now, you get all of these items ready, which means that what you go by is your definition of ready. Once they confirm, that's where the last C comes into play, the confirmation. Once they confirm that this story is ready to go into the sprint, it means that they are confirming that they've had enough conversation that is required, So they think that once they commit to this story, they'll be able to run through based on what they know so far. They are good. They'll be able to complete that story without any issue. So those are the typical things that you would do during your backlog refinement session. And then you put the stories. So I usually tell my mentees, if you are conducting backlog refinement really well, you don't have any reason to spend more than 1 hour in your sprint planning events for a 2-week sprint. You don't have any reason. If you're going 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and then you should question the way you're doing backlog refinement, if at all you're doing one. Backlog refinement is a powerful tool. And I'll tell you why I think it's very important. But on the how it is done part, yes, that's how a typical backlog refinement would happen. So that now you've already got all of these things cleared up. When you're going out for your sprint planning, you people are relaxed. You're not overwhelmed. You're not feeling tense and all of these things. Remember, sprint planning is just that one opportunity for you. And once you end your sprint, you're just ending your sprint. And then you don't want to start a new sprint feeling overwhelmed, feeling tense and all of that, because of a lot of unknown that you may not have uncovered before that planning. So once you do your backlog refinement and you do it really well, you will see that when you go for your sprint planning event, you're relaxed and all of that. It's just like a wedding planning. Come to think of it, if you just sit and you're not doing nothing about your upcoming wedding, and you're waiting for like 1 to 2 days or the day of the actual wedding before you want to run things, that's not going to work. It's just going to be a total failure. It's the same thing for the way Scrum works. You want to always be proactive, and then this backlog refinement is an event that that platform that will help you really proactively plan towards your sprint planning event, so that your sprint will run smoothly without any issue. Yeah, so that's how it's typically done. Now, what is the purpose, or how important? Why is it important? Why is backlog refinement session very important? And how frequent should you have backlog refinement sessions? That should be the question. I see backlog refinement as important as any other of the 4 Scrum events. To me, backlog refinement is as important as daily stand-up. It's as important as sprint planning. It's just as important as sprint review. It's just as important as sprint retrospective. That's how I see it, because of the value we are deriving from it. This is how it works in real life, right? If your team is doing backlog refinement, and again, if you realize that maybe your team is carried over a lot of stories and then you're not doing backlog refinement at all, that is something you should think about to, infuse in your whole framework. Now, if your team is doing backlog refinement, I usually recommend that make sure your backlog refinement is continuous. It shouldn't be just a once in a blue moon kind of thing. No, it should, just the same way your other events are consistent and continuous. That's how I want your backlog refinement to be consistent as well. So I would typically recommend a weekly backlog refinement for a 2-week sprint, which means that every week you want to have backlog refinement at least once, and then it should be consistent. Everyone should know that it happens on this day at this time. That's how I usually recommend. Now, this is how the whole thing plays out. Once your sprint is over, okay, you want to have one backlog refinement after your sprint planning event for the new sprint. Now, the scope of your backlog refinement is, the recommendation is at least 2 sprints worth of work. So that's the scope. Let's say, for example, if you're currently working on sprint 1, your backlog refinement, the scope of your backlog refinement would be sprint 2 and sprint 3, right? Because you want to get ready for the future sprints. So let's say we have a backlog refinement today, Sunday, and then we have a sprint planning today, Sunday. The next day, I would want to have a backlog refinement for the upcoming sprint. Now, the reason why I recommend a continuous or at least 2 backlog refinements in one sprint is because during the first backlog refinement, I really see that as an opportunity to uncover any open questions on the user story. That's where the team start discussing about these user stories for the upcoming sprints and any open question. Let's say, for example, you typically see user stories that don't even have no acceptance criteria. Sometimes they may have information, but the detail on what the developer needs to run their work successfully is not really there. So at that time, they are having this conversation, and then they need this information to be in there, but the product owner doesn't have that information to give them at that time. Come to think of it, if it was the actual planning, now they identify all of these open questions. How is that going to play out? How is the PO going to get that information for them when the PO doesn't even have time? The sprint planning doesn't give the opportunity for the product owner to go get that information and get it right for them. It may cause the product owner to even be rushed or may not even have that information at all, and which means that they'll end up committing to stories that are not ready. And it will definitely reflect on the outcome of the sprint. You don't want that. So the very first backlog refinement is that opportunity to start having that conversation on the upcoming sprint work items. And then any open questions, things like that, that's where you want to point it out, and then you take all of these things as action item. Let's say if the product owner don't have the answers for you at that time, that will be the action item. Again, you're giving time for your product owner to really go get the information and get good information, not just any kind of rushed information. As well as for your team members as well. You see, so there'll be times where you would need your team members to break down the work into tasks and all of that. And in real life, trust me, developers don't like to sit in these meetings and be doing these things like breaking down stories into tasks and all of these things. And if tasking your work is part of your definition of ready, if you're not conducting your backlog refinement, it means that you would only want them to do it on the day of the planning. And trust me, they hardly ever want to do these kind of things. They don't want that. They don't want that. So you want to give them time to go sit on their own time out of the meeting and break down these things into tasks, so that when you're getting to your planning meeting, all of these things are ready. So yes, that first backlog is really for that purpose, to answer the questions that are open that have answers at that time, and then the ones that may not have answers, you all take it as action items. Now, when you're connecting for your next backlog refinement, right? So it's twice a week. I mean, twice per sprint. When you're connecting for your next backlog refinement, that's another opportunity for you all to come with all of these action items already answered. You see? But if you're just having just one backlog refinement, okay, you have all of these open things. You really don't have another opportunity to confirm if this open question or these action items have been completed. And then you only have your planning. What if your team members come and they say, "Oh, I forget," or I didn't do it for whatever reason? That's the reality. Trust me, because once you get out of that meeting, for the most part, they are just focusing on, okay, what next? What development work do I need to go do? But if you give them that opportunity to have that time, and then you also, when you're connecting for your next refinement session, you are reminding them, okay, have you completed this thing? If not, they will say, oh, this is really serious. You give them time now to quickly go complete these things and confirm before your actual sprint planning. Now, that's already two opportunities to double check. It's all about double checking, and adapting like that. Those are already two opportunities that you've given them to ensure that they have everything they need in order to commit to a sprint that would have potential of success. And then all of these things are cleared up. Now, the day of your actual sprint planning, you really don't have so much work to do. I call the actual sprint planning as just rounding things up, concluding on things, especially if you've done your backlog refinement session really well. The day of the planning, you find yourself, the team, they are not stressing because they've already had good conversation, twice about these things, and they already see that these things are achievable. So the day now of the planning, they are just balancing their capacity up, adjusting. Then maybe any change that may have happened from the last time they met until the day of that planning, they are adjusting to this change. Maybe the customer has asked for another user story to be added. Now they have to adjust to bring this into their sprints, quickly estimate. Meanwhile, all of these estimation things are already been done during their refinement. And then this day of the actual planning, they're just balancing things up. Maybe a team member said, "Oh, I thought I was supposed to be given my full commitment in this sprint, but this emergency just happened. I may not be able to fully commit. So you will have to adjust your capacity." So these would be the common things that will happen during your actual planning events if you're doing backlog refinement very well. So backlog refinement is highly critical. It is. So if you are currently not practicing backlog refinement and you are in a Scrum team, then I suggest you go and bring that up to your team, expose to them the benefit they'll be getting by doing this. Remember, you're a servant leader. You just cannot go impose, So you expose and not impose. Expose the benefits, expose the challenges, expose all of these things and show them how this will benefit them. Ask them to try it. And then you all go ahead and adjust from there. So yes, again, that's exactly what I wanted to bring to you all today. And then I'll just want to spend some few times answering your questions here. And then I hope that was helpful. For those that, if you're new here, please continue to share. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for watching. Continue to share so others can benefit. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. So every Sunday, we do this. If I'm not coming this live, I just started it though. It's just my second time being live here, but every Sunday I'll typically post a video on the whole agile product development and all that stuff. I'll typically post a video. So subscribe so that you will always be notified. Subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you will never miss out. This is a safe platform for we all to learn together. That's the whole point. This whole journey is beautiful. Trust me, it's beautiful. Enjoy this. I don't want to be enjoying, so we all can, have fun in this beautiful journey. It's really hard to have to enjoy your job, but I'm telling you that I'm enjoying this, and I would like you all to enjoy it as much as I am enjoying it. Yeah, so I hope that was really helpful though. And if you're looking for a mentorship one-on-one to close your gaps, things that are not really talked in books, reach out to us. Reach out to us. I will post our information here. Reach out to us. We'll be so glad to be your mentor. We've been helping a lot of people in this journey. Thank you for joining. Thank you all for joining. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining. Let me run through this and see if I can answer some questions before I, share with you the last thing I have to share with you today before I run. All right. Gideon is asking, who ensures the definition of ready? Gideon, the team. The team. So it's no one person. The entire team have to come up with their definition of ready. Remember, it's all about team effort. It's team effort. Most of the time, the only reason why a Scrum Master may come up with a definition of ready is because the team have no idea. And then the team have asked the Scrum Master's recommendation on what they've done in the past or what they've established in the past as definition of ready. And even as a Scrum Master, you're bringing that definition of ready. I don't need you to bring it as it's built on stone. No, you're bringing it in as a suggestion, and then together with your team, you run through it and then make sure that you all have that consensus agreement. Because if that's not the case, trust me, it may just end up being your definition of ready, not the team's. And that will be so hard to follow if you don't have consensus on it. I hope that answers your question, Vivian. Okay, so how long are your backlog refinement? So Adrian, typically I'll do a weekly backlog refinement. I'll just do one backlog refinement per week, and normally I would go for like an hour. I'll go for like an hour. But again, in this whole thing, nothing is built on stone. So it's just about testing it and seeing how it's going, and then you're making adjustments. That's the approach I usually take with my teams, and they always like it. But if you're coming in like, oh, it's supposed to be 1 hour, this is the rule, this is how it works, you just end up being alone in that team. You don't want that. You want your team to always be on your side. You want to always be on their side as well. So everything that I'll typically do in my team is always consensus. Try it and see how it's working, making adjustments. If it's not working, we are throwing it away really fast. That's how we do it. All right. Okay, so yeah, right. Okay. Great. Congratulations, Alini. Congratulations. That's amazing. All right. All right. So Lucy is asking, what's the role of a Scrum Master during backlog refinement? As a Scrum Master during backlog refinement, because this meeting is really owned by the PO, for real, it's really owned by the PO. So as a Scrum Master, I already explained this before. You're just there. That's where your being agile really comes into play, as opposed to doing, because the doing part is these activities that you're doing. But the being part, that's where the behavioral aspects and the value really comes into play. You're there to observe. You're there to observe. It's just like when you're like a lifeguard in a pool, a swimming pool or something. You're trusting that they got it. They're doing it right. Now, if you see that they're drowning, you want to jump in and help them. That's how it is. That's why you're there as a Scrum Master. For example, I may be in a backlog refinement session. I'm just quiet, just observing, and then I see how it's going. Let's say that they are refining a particular story, and then they say, oh, this story is ready to go into the sprint. And then I look at the story, I see that the acceptance criteria field is blank. What it's telling me is that it's not ready. And then that it will push me to want to ask them questions. Okay, how about the acceptance criteria field? I say that that's empty. Do you are you still able to walk through it even if it's not filled out? Sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, I got it. And then sometimes they'll be like, oh, we forgot, I think we need the acceptance criteria, and then they'll go ahead and fill it out. So you're just there to watch, and then if you think that they have to be saved, you jump in and save them. But again, you have to always trust your team, trust them. But if they're drowning, you have to save them. Yeah, that's what you really do. Okay, someone is asking. I think that Prasad, I think that question is already answered. I'll typically do my backlog refinement weekly. Yeah, that's what I would do. What is the difference between Epic and the user stories? So I need you to see that's a good question. Light. That's a good question. So I want you to see Epic as big user stories. That's how I need you to see Epics. They are huge user stories that cannot fit into just one sprint, or team members cannot really understand the complexity of that huge work. So they'll have to break it down into smaller chunks, which is called user stories. That's how I need you to see it. That's what epics are like. I hope that answers your question. All right. Just to round up, I think I've answered some of the questions here, some of the key questions here. Please go ahead and share as you're joining. Please share. Go ahead and share. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to support me. It's very important. Just the same way you need direction is the same way I need motivation. So keep motivating me and keep supporting me. So another thing that I just wanted to share with you all, which is great news, is that YouTube have identified this channel as very helpful to people out there. So now they've given us the ability to have what you call membership. So for people that are really looking to have more or to get more of what I'll be bringing to them, other than just the standard stuff that I bring here, you can go ahead and, there is a join button right down. If you go to my YouTube channel, click on the join to become our member. And then through that membership, you would have special content, special material, special perks just for you alone. So only members will be able to have those kind of benefits. So that's great recognition from YouTube, which I really appreciate, and it's all because of you. I could have never have ever done this all by myself. Trust me, it's all because of you that we have accomplished all of these. So I just want to say a big thank you to you all. And we are going places. We are doing great things. Everybody must benefit from this whole agile journey. They must feel and experience the sweetness in this whole thing. It's just so sweet to keep it all to myself. So I'm so excited and I'm so very thankful. Thank you, Lucy. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So Gideon is asking, what is the difference between backlog prioritization and refinement? All right. So Gideon, I need you to see backlog prioritization as from a product owner perspective. So these are the things that would be done even before you get to your backlog refinement. So what is presented to the team, what the PO presents to the team should be a prioritized backlog. And then when you bring this prioritized backlog, the team will now refine these prioritized backlog items to get them ready. That is filling all the and answering all of the open questions that may be in that user stories to confirm that it's ready to go into the sprint. But before your backlog refinement, the PO, you want to trust that your PO should already prioritize the backlog. That is the most urgent, or the urgent items should be at the top, like that. The ones that have been broken down more rather than the huge ones that maybe epics are at the top. The ones that the PO is looking for you people to achieve first, that will meet the need of the customers in the next 2 weeks. Those are the things that the PO would put at the top. That's what we call prioritizing the backlog. So that happens even before you connect for your sprint, your backlog refinement session. All right. Thank you all so much. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and turn in that subscription button. And if you're looking for a one-on-one mentoring or coaching services, please feel free to reach out to us. We've been helping a lot of people. That's what we do. That's the purpose of everything we do. We've been helping a lot of people achieve their goal. Whether you're just starting in this journey, whether you're just a beginner, we offer training. Once you're done with the training, you can now go get your certification through scrum.org. Get your PSM certification. And then for those who are already certified, they are in between landing that job and the certification. That huge gap on what you're supposed to do to land that job. People don't talk about it that much. I don't see it and I don't understand why, because it's highly needed. Reach out to us. We've been helping a lot of people achieve that, land their dream job. And that is what gives me fulfillment. Reach out to us. We will be so glad to help you. And then if you're already on the job, you're struggling. Maybe you're struggling around the skills. Maybe you're struggling, you just landed a job and then you want to succeed. You want to start well. All of these things, reach out to us. That's what we do. We help people. So I'm just going to post the information here. All right. All right. Yeah. So that's our email. Just send us a direct email. We will attend to you and then we go from there. And then you can also reach out to our website directly and you can register directly from there, to get started. But I always like to have a 15 minutes call, direct face to face. Once you've made up your mind to get into the program, I always like to have what I call orientation, get to know you meeting, even before you get into the program. To me, it's very important that you start well. So I always appreciate that meeting. So once you reach out to us and they will share the information, our admin will give you all the information you need. And, from there, they'll schedule a meeting with you. If you want me as your mentor, we have other partners. But if you want me as your mentor, I would always appreciate a meeting first with you. So you understand exactly what you're getting into. Make sure that you're committing that you want to succeed, because if not, I don't admit people who are not ready. To me, it's very important. It's very important that you're ready, because I need you to succeed. That's the only way I measure my success. If you're succeeding, I don't have any other unit of measurement, which means that if you're failing, I have failed and I don't want to fail. So that's why that orientation meeting is very important to me. We share all of these things. I direct you, orientate you, make sure you have the right mindset to be successful. If not, I try to orientate you to get the right mindset in order to start well. But if I see that you're just not that, you will not be successful in this, I let you know. And I will not, I want to make you come into something that I know I have already perceived that you may not be ready. So that's why that orientation meeting is very important to me. I see some people joining now. Thank you for joining. So thank you all for joining. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. So you can always go back. I would post the content, the recorded content. I'll post this and then you can catch up. If you have questions, please feel free to use the comment section. It's so hard, to keep up with the LinkedIn questions, the emails. It's so hard, trust me, because there is really no one monitoring my LinkedIn. And one day I would have at least 100 messages. So it's just so hard. That's why I am coming up live here from time to time, so we can just use one stone and shoot so many birds. Not that you're birds though, but all right. All right. So Olua is asking, how can you help with the technical skills required using Jira? Using Jira is really not the technical skills. Trust me, that's not something you should even worry about at all. Those are all of the things that we'll be covering in our mentorship program. We just teach you everything you need to know to be successful. Trust me. It's a wonderful program. Wonderful program. We have great testimonies. All right. All right, Jerry, no problem. Next time I'll try to be early. So this today wasn't even planned. It's just that one of my meetings was canceled. So I decided to use this time and connect with you all. So today wasn't even planned, but Jerry, yes, I've taken that feedback. Next time I'll try to be early. Thank you all so much. All right. Thank you all, everybody. And I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. Please feel free to catch up. Go back to the recording. I would save it right now. You just go back and catch up on anything you've missed. And then if you have questions, please post. And then, like I always tell you, just because I show up here and then I share my knowledge, it doesn't mean I know everything. I don't at all. So I always appreciate when you also share your thoughts, share your input, what you've done as well. For those who are already in the field, please go ahead and share, and then so I can also learn. I can also learn, because this is also a way for me to keep my learning alive. So it's not just about you. I also want to learn. Thank you so much. What was the answer about certification? All right. I don't know if a question was asked about safe certification. I don't know if a question was asked about safe certification, but regarding if you're asking if safe certification is something you should take, I always say more is always better. No knowledge is ever useless. But what I will tell you is that it's not required. Safe certification is not required for you to be a Scrum Master. Your standard CSM or your PSM1 is good enough for you to start. Trust me, it's good enough. And then to me, I usually recommend, I tell my mentees, first focus on getting that the first certification. Once you get that certification, you continue to close your gap to land that first role. Once you land that first role, everything else will be clear to you. You will know the next step to take from a certification standpoint, from furthering your education standpoint, from career progression standpoint, you will know. But again, as you're looking for the job, maybe the job is not coming, which I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be coming. That's why you need to join our program, so that you will get that job. But if you're looking for a job, it's not coming, okay, go ahead and keep learning. In the process of keep learning, you can keep adding the certification. But it's really not required. Having so many certifications, it may only make your resume look good. Now, when you go for your job, for your interview, maybe you'll make your resume look good, and then they end up calling you for that interview. You have to defend it. And that's where they catch a lot of people, because you're not able to defend it. You're not able to defend all of this nice resume you have. That's where they'll kick you out. You don't want that. So focus on having that one certification first, or if you already have so many, no problem. Now focus on getting that job. Once you get that job, you can keep adding, keep learning, keep adding. To me, learning never ends. Is the beauty of this journey, because it gives you the ability to keep pushing, keep finding out, keep learning. It's very important. So Lucy, I hope I answered your question. All right. Thank you, Egua, Emmanuel. Thank you. That sounds like a name from my place, though. But thank you so much. All right. So the difference between PSM and SAFE certification. PSM is just a standard Scrum Master certification. The SAFE certification is if you're looking to work for an organization that practices scaled agile framework. That is when you would want to go get your SAFE certification. You see, but not all organizations practice SAFE. Not all organizations practice SAFE, So there is a new one that is really hot right now, and a lot of these huge organizations are diverting to start practicing it rather other than SAFE. Is what they call OKR. So one day I'm going to make a video on that. So that is something that's really huge right now. OKR, like OKR, which means objectives and key results. That's what most organizations are shifting towards right now, as opposed to SAFE. But again, like I said, more is always better, but it's not required like that. All right. Thank you all so much, and have an amazing Sunday, and I'll catch up with you all next time. Bye.